pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to Monday morning's meeting, everybody. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the June 28th, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the employee claims filed with the county auditor for the amount of $465.91.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve claims filed with the county auditor for the amount of $286,565.72.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the resignation of James Milka, Secondary Road, effective June 19th of 2024.
So approve that resignation.
I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. I am sorry to see him go. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the resignation of Brian Donnelly, Secondary Roads, effective June 28th of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Place on file the following manure management plans. O'Connor West Finisher, Middlefield Township, Section 20C, 26. Pork Chop Ranch Incorporated, Liberty Township, Section 15.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
First, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and next up is senior center camera.
I guess you need to explain that, I guess, Dawn.
I didn't ask to put it on.
It was a bill that came in and there was a question about it, so I guess I fired back to, because of the question Chris had for me on it. I think sent it to all of us that it need to be explained to us what happened up there and why it was needed.
I explained that in an email. I guess I can explain it again. There was somebody throwing trash in a dumpster up there. So they wanted a camera on the dumpster. And I went to Jason and I asked Jason, well, can we do this or can't we do this? And he said, well, we could put a camera up there. And I said, is this something that you could use again in the future? Jason said, yes. He said, I can take care of it. So then it was ordered and we put it up. It was installed. It is in the amount of $209, something like that.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, the senior center is home to NEI 3A, who is paying rent for the building. We've had some plumbing issues that this Council on Aging has taken care of. The Council on Aging pays for the electricity and all the utilities in that building. The Council on Aging has just taken care of some other additional repairs on the building. So I guess what we can do is I can turn this bill over to them and I can ask them for receipts for all those other repairs they've done and submit them to the county.
I just need to know where it needs to be paid out of. What line item is it coming out of? Because we don't have anything budgeted for the senior center for something like that. And then the other problem is with these, they all go on a cell bill. It's gonna go on a cell phone bill.
Right,
So I can't outright pay Appliance Plus where it was purchased, the $209.
I say you can absorb the cost, it's fine. Especially since we're going to reuse it later for other.
Yeah,
projects.
that's their decision. I just need to know where it needs to be paid out of.
Now, is this apparently this is looking at just a temporary issue to try and catch somebody that's violating the dumping of waste up there, and then it's gonna be moved to another location?
As needed, as far as I'm aware, yes.
So it's gonna be kind of a floating camera or as needed.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just pointed towards the dumpster? Is there any of the west parking lot and entrance picked up with this camera?
just the dumpster.
Just the dumpster?
If you look at the northwest corner, that little window is, that's facing the dumpster. We have the camera behind that window to protect it from the elements and whatnot. And it's just mainly pointing at the dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it would be cited in the future by the board to make, relocate that, and it was necessary, we thought it was necessary to have something for that camera, so it pick up parking lot if it would be needed or not. It would be wise to do that, to have a camera out there in case anything vandalism or there's a slip and fall or.
What we could potentially do is work with IndyTel and get a pair of dark fiber ran out there, or utilize dark fiber that might be out there, and set up permanent security cameras that would tie back to our existing system. And that'd be a long-term goal though. For the short term, just to catch the person that's illegally dumping, was put this camera quickly in place.
Is this illegal dumping, does that cost any additional cost for disposal fees or anything out there?
No, they didn't come out and dump it one extra time. We had requested them to, but they did it on the same day. They said, well, we're gonna go out there that day anyway to dump it, so, but it just smelled like there was a dead body in there or something. Which
This
concerned the
is not a
seniors.
weatherproof camera. So It's not.
If
designed
I
for that, so-
recall it, it is, I just put it behind the window because of placement. Normally, it does have a battery built into it, but I've got a Ring doorbell at home that just dies after about 4 months. So because of it being inside, we plug it right into an outlet and not worry about it.
Our little cameras are indoor, outdoor,
Yeah,
what he purchased.
And this, does it have to go to a chip or is what's it record to?
currently it's uploading to the cloud, and then Dawn has been given access to that cloud portal to review any footage. It can also download directly to an SD card, similar to a trail cam.
Is there
it
an
sending you
ongoing-
alerts or anything, Dawn, or
Do what?
does it send you alerts or anything if somebody's out there?
No, but it only picks up when somebody goes out to that area. Like there was a car that stopped there the one time. And it picks up the car. It tells you person, car.
Is this a one-time fee or we got a ongoing monthly cost here?
The way we have it currently set up is a monthly cost. It's a $15.80 charge. Since we didn't pay for the 200 / almost $300 camera outright. I sent Wong out there and said, just get it going. So there's a monthly fee to it. It's to pay for the camera itself.
And you could absorb that in your budget?
I'm hoping not to need it for very long. Because watching a dumpster is not my highlight of things to do.
So we're not set up where we get an annual agreement on this or anything like that. We just can discontinue at any time.
We would still have to pay for the device to pay it off if we so choose, but otherwise, no, we're not locked into any service contract per se.
So this is something we decide to move. We can basically move it to any department.
Or any physical location, yeah.
So you just keep it in inventory in case whenever we need it.
Yeah, we're similar to like a camera.
Sure.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question, Chris? And what
I guess we're
If it's
just.
gonna be taking IT's budget, that's what I needed to know,
Yeah,
need a motion or anything on that?
please.
I make a motion that we pay for the senior center camera expense through the IT department.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I have IDHHS PHEP grant insurance. Thank you, Jason. Certificate. I am assuming that's my public health people.
Come forward, gals. That way the owl can see you.
You want me to be right up here?
Yes.
You're famous now, Griffin.
So our grants, a new requirement of our grants this year is for the, we need to, report document of insurance and an insurance certificate within 30 days of IHHS signing contracts. And so the first one was the FEP grant. So that's the PHEP, is the Public Health Emergency Preparedness. And then we have received our local public health services grant. It was a requirement of that one as well. So it's just something I brought the contract with me. And it's just the line item on the contract to provide that county's certificate of insurance.
You just need the board chair to sign that, right?
I just need the certain copy of the certificate of insurance certificate.
So we need
County's
to have,
insurance certificate.
make a motion for the auditor to provide the certificate of insurance.
Well, let's get hold of Ebers.
Was this something that was budgeted?
It's not, it's just, they just gave us the contract. And it's not something that requires, it's a fee or anything.
I mean, would assume it's normal insurance that we normally have.
Yes.
Like the property liability insurance, that's the certificate of that, okay.
Yes, just since public health is under the Board of Health.
So it's total between the federal and the state, it was like 700,000. Is that what I saw?
About, sounds about right. New numbers in here, I don't think they, yes. 72,000 or 723,884. That's for this particular grant, our other grants. Local public health services, 10,100.
What kind of action do we need to do?
Make a motion that we have the county auditor issue the certificate of insurance to public health.
Okay.
I have a first, do I have a second? I have a first and a second, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next up is, the EMS Essential Services Plan. And, I would like to say that I do appreciate the EMS Association's willingness to take on the task that they were presented. Unfortunately, at this juncture, in my opinion, the request is not ready to be placed on the November ballot. Well, I understand that thinking that more people being at the polling places will be a better thing. It will be on the back of the ballot, so with the judges, and some people don't even flip the ballot over to vote for judges. Even when instructed to turn the ballot over, they don't do it. Taxpayers who are interested in the referendum will actually show up to vote at that time, if it's on a special election. It is my belief that we need to take our time, put together a strategic business plan. During last Thursday's Zoom call to answer my questions, the consultant that was hired acknowledged he has not put together a proposal for a ballot in the state of Iowa. He did state that this is the minimum required to be placed on the ballot. Anyone knows me will tell you I don't do anything to the minimum. It's not my nature. For full transparency to our citizens, there needs to be a business plan with actual dollars to be presented. The people in the ambulance districts need to know where the money is going. If I was a banker and asked for a loan without a business plan, or if I went to a banker, it would be denied. And we're asking the citizens for funding without a plan. Our citizens, both in town and in the country, need to know what they're getting with their hard-earned income. The proposal only kicks the can down the road until an evaluation is completed after people are taxed. It does not specify if the people are propping up AMR, which is a for-profit business, or if we're going to purchase ambulances, hire personnel to service a large ambulance district while paying stipends to first responders and volunteers in Jessup and Fairbank. Coming up with essentially what we will do a study after the fact is not an answer to this problem. I was not for hiring the consultant and to begin with, and should have spoke up more at that time and voted with me to follow my instincts. I have more, but I'm not gonna read it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, well, no, there's a little bit more because we're actually putting this on for this tax on for 15 years. Once you vote a tax into place, you can't undo it. You can't just say, oh, well, this year we'd only need 35 cents per thousand. It's always going to be that 75 cents until it's voted on again to change that specific amount. And that's it.
I think we need to also support, and I know the city's involved with this. They're at 1/3 of the involvement with this, and we got Daniel here this morning and stuff. I think Dawn brought up some very valid points that I agree with. But my concern is that we've funded our third with the ARPA. And it's put strain on the city's budget also.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why I was hoping that we could get something resolved quickly on this, but I understand what you read there. And I think our ARPA, I think the last payment, I think we did 3 years on that. So is the last payment, I think,
26.
26, so. But that doesn't help the city out any. So, I don't know, would we, if we do if a special thing on this, getting a business plan in place and everything. What are we looking at? What are you thinking, Dawn, on this, put it on, like a March, vote or something like that, or?
Something like that.
Just as a comment, I did reach out to Maggie Berger at Spear Financial, inquiring about the possibility of bonding and using our tax receipts every year to pay on the payment of the bond. So we could get working capital right away rather than waiting. But I don't want to step out of line and get a bond and then this thing doesn't pass.
Right,
That concerns me.
right.
Then the county's on the hook for bond payment that we gotta figure out where we're getting the money for.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it's not a service that's needed, and I can definitely see where it would help, but we gotta figure out what direction we're going, and that's nowhere spelled out in this plan. In fact, in this plan, it sort of looks like we want to tax and prop up ambulances, which is great, but yet there's nowhere, it's how we're gonna pay for the current situation that we have going on. And I'm not for using tax dollars to pay for a for-profit business.
Any questions?
Yeah, Daniel, why don't you come on up? And if your team can come up too, there.
This is one of the comes, she is with Fairbank, one of our co-chairs.
Hi.
Contact you at the meeting.
Okay. So first, I'd like to address that this is not a business plan. There's no way to say where every dollar of this money is gonna go right now, because that's all gonna depend on the needs of the services at the time. It's a very fluid budget. If Fairbank needs funding to help them with a power load system or to help them purchase a monitor or something, money is gonna go to them. If they don't need the money, and money's gonna go to where it's needed. So to say that we have to have a dollar budget right now, it's impossible. It's where it's needed. We can show the need for this money. We can show the need that we need stipends for volunteers, that we need funding to help purchase equipment, the larger purchases of equipment, that we need jump bags and AEDs for the first responder services to show up when they get on scene, they have equipment. We can show this need. I mean, whatever data you guys want, I can show you the number of volunteers that we have or the lack of volunteers that we have. I don't think by postponing this, we're helping anything. It's needed now. I understand your concerns with the ambulances, but that's not what this is primarily for.
And see, this is what we wanted it primarily for. We got to figure out the AMR situation.
Correct.
I mean, that has to be part of this. And so if it's not part of
That's
this,
the next step.
you're asking people to spend money before you have it there. And if it fails, you're never going to get it passed.
We're
It needs to
asking,
be done right.
we're asking people to provide support for the services we have now. That, I agree, I don't want to give tax money to a for-profit service. That's at the discretion of you guys. All this money gets sent to you guys for how you want it distributed. The association just gets to make our recommendations for how we think it would best be utilized. So if you don't want to give money to AMR, absolutely, you don't have to. That's up to you guys. But we have to provide support for the services we have now in anticipation that we want to make changes, but we can't make those changes until we know what our options are, which is that study. If we do a study now, and which I agree, do the study now, whatever, but all that does is postpone, again, everything that we're trying to do. So in my mind, if we put this on the ballot and it passes, we have a funding source to support the services we have now. We then have a funding source to give us a consultant or give us a study to show where we need to go in the future. And then we already have that revenue source to then implement the goals or the options from that service or from that study at your guys' discretion.
Brad, you've worked on the school board before. When they wanted a bonding referendum passed, what did they do?
Wasn't there when they did a bonding referendum that didn't pass, sorry.
I know what we did. They did a special election.
I know you're resistant to spending money to a for-profit business, but we do that all the time. County roads. We hire companies to come in and pave a road for us. That's public tax dollars for the public benefit.
We're under contract with AMR for another 18 months. I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
And I guess from the city's perspective, you know, obviously we're in favor of this. We were hoping that this would have been done a long time ago. There's lots of other counties that have already stepped up, done it,
13.
got their things passed. So our concern is that if we don't do something about it now, then we're going to be in a position when it comes time for the renewal of the AMR, we won't have anything in place. And then what are we going to do? We're at the will, you know, the city, the hospital or the county would be at the mercy of whoever else we can get in. We're not trying to fund the for-profit. What we're trying to do is put it in a position where we are able, when it comes up for renewal, to make a decision. Is this a situation where the city's going to step up and we're going to be the ones that are providing the labor services? Is this something where the hospital is going to provide place for the ambulance and the ambulances themselves? Is this a situation where the county is going to be providing certain things? We just won't know those things until we reach that point, but we don't have anything in place now. And I think that's why the city was hoping that this would go on the ballot in November, so that once we reach the point where we had to make decisions, we have options. Right now, we've got no options. We're going to be stuck with whatever price they come up with in terms of a renewal.
I have a couple questions. You said where the money is needed. So that's kind of a concern to me of how the money is going to be divvied out, you know? So are we gonna reach out to every community that's got an EMS service that needs EMS services and say, what do you need in your community? How are we gonna fairly distribute this money so that, say, because of the per population, Fairbank would be receiving, I'm just using it for example, not picking on a Fairbank, would receiving more than somebody else.
Yep.
So it's evenly balanced and distributed throughout the county.
So in the plan that you guys have, there's different line items for training and education, support service allocation. This first year, we have the study, the cost of a study in there, and then capital expenses. Those excluding the study. So training, support service allocation, and capital expenses are all equipment and training line items. Those would all go to where equipment and training is needed. If Winthrop has 10 people that they need to send to classes, then Winthrop can apply for that money. If there's Winthrop has 10 and Kloski has 10, that's where it goes, no matter what, to the association and to you guys to best determine, okay, do we send all 10 from Winthrop? Do we send 5 from each? That's kind of the discretion of where's that money needed the most, or where can we best benefit with that money. For staffing allocation, which is the large chunk of this, that's going to go to the stipends, on-call pay, an EMS coordinator possibly, if that's, again, what the recommendation is. But that money, we didn't want to back ourselves into a corner on saying, okay, it's going to get split up 10%, 10%, 10%, or whatever percent we go with. Because that might not be the best option next year or the year after that. So we talked about a few different formulas. The one that we all kind of agreed on that we think would be best is the same one that the fire departments use, which is assessed value of your service, of your territory, times the population of your territory, times the call volume of your service. Take that, divide by 3 times 100, that's your percentage of that allotted money. So for example, if Fairbank is 10%, then they get $50,000 of the 500,000. That 50,000 then goes to Fairbank. And if Fairbank says, hey, it's gonna best suit us to use this for on-call pay, that's how they want to spend that money. Cause that might be best for them, but that might not be best for Jessup. So say Jessup gets 75,000, they can use that 75,000 for how they feel would best benefit their service, their members. But it's based on that. We think it'd be best to be based on that formula where it's an even distribution based on your assessed value, your call volume, and your population, which is exactly how the fire departments do it too.
That sounds a good way, I think, to balance it out, so somebody's not receiving more than one end of the county, the other end of the county. And so when these applications, here request are put in, does that go to the EMS board and then they make a recommendation, then it would come to the Board of Supervisors? My next question is, who is gonna be the fiscal agent?
What do you mean?
Who's gonna handle all this money and this funding and stuff like that? Is that gonna go, expected to go through the auditor?
Yeah, it's tax money, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, all we're doing, like, we don't have control of this money, we don't have access to this money, nothing like that. We are making recommendations based on what we see the needs of the county are, recommendations to you guys to spend that money, what's gonna make it would best benefit.
Yeah, I just said, we put it off too long. I'm concerned about, right now, we're using ARPA money. And once that is gone and done, that expires, it's gonna sunset on it and stuff like that. If we have to take our share then out, and I'm assuming if this didn't pass and we need to continue funding the ambulance service, supplementing it, stuff like that, that money is gonna have to come out of our general basic. So it's gonna affect our general basic, which tells me if we gotta come up with $200,000 for our third of the cost or something like that, that means we got limitations put on us by the legislature. That means that somehow we're gonna have to get $200,000 out of our rest of our departments to pay for that.
That's too.
We're gonna have to cut somebody back someplace.
And I think that our hope is that if the bond if it passes, then we then come up with some type of a plan between the county, between the city, and between the hospital in terms of what we're gonna do long-term. And then we look at the business plan at that point in time in terms of how we're going to be able to fund whatever we need to fund. You know, we don't have to use AMR after our contract expires if we have the ability to do something ourselves. And I'm not volunteering the city on behalf of this, but the three of us are partners. We have to decide that what's best for the entire county. In terms of EMS services. So it's just a matter of, you've got to have something in place and some type of a funding source before you know what you really can get out of it and whether we can really afford to be able to do something in the future ourselves, or whether we're in a situation where we just have to negotiate the best deal and we have a third. And we're hoping to not be in that position.
Mr. Wieland?
Yeah, but the concept of funding whatever you need to fund, it kind of leaves an open conversation. Whereas, yes, I realize the dexterity in that type of respect, but that's usually for the private sector to determine funding what you're going to need to fund and what those profit margins are and things like that. In the case of public spending, you typically say, okay, we're going to look for 6 EBS kits this year. We're going to look, 10 years down the road, we're going to need a fire truck. And so you identify those aspects ahead of time and say, this is what we're requesting.
I was gonna say that if you can do that for me, I would love that, but
I don't have a crystal ball either.
it's impossible to determine what we're going to need. I'm not saying it's like, hey, right now we need this, but instead of looking 10 years in the future, we're having to look a year, 2, 3 years in the future. And so it's a lot more fluid than a normal budget would be, where you can plan out.
Right, that's the transparency of public funds.
And it's all transparent as far as it's coming through the supervisors. We're making recommendations. You guys can use the money how you see fit. We're just making the recommendation saying this is where we think it's needed. And again, if you don't want to take our recommendation, that's up to you guys. If you have a better plan for it, if you have something that you think would be better than what we're recommending, I'm not gonna tell you how to do that. We can just make our recommendations based on what we find in the county, our experiences.
One of the things that I've been challenged about is why we're going for the maximum levy. And I think we could actually ratchet that down if we went with the bonding option of getting funds up front. That's just a thought. Well, Clayton, the other thing you brought up was on fiscal agents. It's possible to, instead of throwing it at the auditor, we could go with somebody like Northeast Iowa RCD or Central Iowa that contracts. I know they actually are the fiscal agent for 2 ambulance services right there.
But I don't know where the legalities come into play, because this is, if this passes, it's gonna be tax dollars that come into the county. So to have a private entity handling them tax dollars, I guess I don't know if that's fitting or even allowable. If tax dollars have to be, once they come into the county, they have to be distributed back out the county through the claim system. What's your thought on that, Chris? You're the auditor. I'm relying on you a little bit.
You very well may be right of those places doing that. I don't know. The majority of the counties that I know that have passed this, it's the auditor that pays them out. I know, like, for example, and I know this is comparing apples to oranges, like Jones County, they have quite a few cities that have their own service. She has a formula, it's based on calls on them getting paid out, but like I said, that's comparing apples to oranges with Buchanan County. My other concern with getting this on the ballot so quickly is this could shove me into a 3-page ballot. And either that or the type's gonna be about this big. And then my only other concern, setting me aside, I just want to make sure the public, we really, the association board, whoever really teaches the public what we're doing with this, why we're doing it. And my concern right now is I don't think you guys have enough time.
I think we have plenty of time. We have from it, whenever you guys, if you guys vote to put it on the ballot, we have from now till November. We have a schedule of council meetings. We've reached out to all the EMS services.
All the EMS services. We're
We-
kind of ready with the media part of it.
We are ready to
We just
jump
can't-
out into the county.
I think at this point, so I mean, that's
But-
planned.
Would you be able to, we had her last big go around was we held a few public meetings on the wind turbine issue and stuff like that. I just wondered to get people information out to the people, if we need to go above just going to a council meeting, we need to maybe set up and have go to each community at the fire station, invite people there, and then if the public has questions for the EMS
Yes.
personnel, they are right there to answer them questions, and have public meetings held there.
Yes.
So I'm not encompassing every single thing that we have. I don't think I have enough time to talk about all this, but we have council meetings, the EMS department meetings, fire department meetings, Rotary clubs, Lion clubs, community clubs. We have a Facebook page, newspapers, TV, Twitter. We have all of these options at our disposal. We can make videos to send out. We can post flyers around town. We're gonna make, I have basically a list of questions that we've all discussed to make into a frequently asked questions list that we can post on Facebook or post around town, that if people have questions, here's our frequently asked questions list. What, does that answer any of your questions? I feel very confident that we can educate and make aware the majority of the citizens in Buchanan County well before November.
Okay, I really have a really dumb question here, but once this starts, it doesn't go into effect until the next tax year anyway.
Right.
So why push something that isn't quite, I don't feel it's ready yet. I don't feel this is, I mean, it's a really good start, but I don't feel like it's ready. Why are we trying to push this onto the back of a ballot when it's not going to make any difference if it was 3 months later? I mean, typically, and don't get me wrong, I've watched school systems do this with bonding referendums. When they want extra money, they never put them on the ballot. They'll go on 2 months later on a special one. The people that really want it, go and vote for it, and it gets passed.
Chris, there's been some law changes of what can be put on ballots and when. Would this fall into that category that there's only certain times that this can be put on the ballot?
Oh, this could go on in a general, or if it's a special, the other thing, if you guys choose to do a special election, you're looking at probably a minimum of $25,000 expense for a special election, because I have to open every precinct.
And right now, that would be being considered the general, we wouldn't be
Right.
seeing that kind of expense.
And that was part of our conversation when thinking about when to do this, was I work elections and I sit on special election days and we get paid to sit there all day. The voter turnout is very poor, unless it's something really contested, and they cost a lot of money to the county.
And-
That's just part of the consideration.
Yeah,
You have
and this
to
one
pay
would
your
be a
election
county
workers.
expense because it's for the county. It's not like it's a special for a school or something like that.
The other thing is, if you look at the timeline, if it gets voted on in 2024, we don't see any tax receipts until fiscal 25 starts.
We're in fiscal
I'm sorry.
25 today.
So. we
It
wouldn't
would not
see-
see anything until 2026.
An ad valorem property tax may be imposed for property taxes due and payable fiscal years beginning after the fiscal year in which the election was held.
So we're in the fiscal year 25, so we wouldn't see anything till 26, which puts us on a really tight time clock. That's what we've got. And we only get tax receipts once a year. You know, figure out how to do that.
As far as the ballot concern, I mean, if we know that going into it, so part of our education to the public is going to be, hey, look it over, you know, really push that aspect of it to get people to understand that if you want this, you need to actually flip that page over. Be it to it.
One of the things that Dan and I and Matt had talked about was the fact that we wanted it on the general election because we wanted more people to understand it and be involved in the process rather than having some special election where just a few people show up and you're trying to get something passed with such a minimal amount of turnout. Whereas in a general election, a presidential election, we're gonna have a lot of people there, which is more of a positive thing for us because we're not trying to hide this from people. We want them to understand it. We want them to vote on it. It's gonna be there'll be signs and everything else that'll be posted in yards. I mean, this will be a big deal. It won't be something that we're trying to hide in some special election. I think that's what people think sometimes when you just have a special election and hardly anybody's on the ballot or hardly anything's in there. That's one of the reasons why we were so supportive of it.
This ballot question, can we? That's a concern of Chris, you know, we don't want a 3-page thing on the ballot, you know. Can this be condensed down to pretty much get everything down in the ballot question and like 1 paragraph? Because if people gotta go there and if they're having trouble understanding something, they're a lot more apt to vote no than yes, if they're having trouble to understanding something.
I don't think that it's, I mean, Dan can respond to this better than me, but my understanding, what we were trying to do was we would have a paragraph in terms of what's actually going to be voted on. This is just information that we're going to be putting out to everybody to explain it to them as to why, you know, we're supporting this particular initiative. I mean, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry if I stepped on your toe.
No, absolutely. I'm just.
If you read the packet, the ballot language is 1 paragraph.
Right.
It's right there.
Yep.
My other major concern is, has the county attorney looked at this?
I sent it up to him, I'm getting
Okay.
response.
Okay.
Because we already have ambulance districts, and it does say that if you already are paying for an ambulance in a district, then you can't replace that tax. And I don't know if that only has to do with chapter 375F, or if and how the districts were established. So I did send something up to him and they're digging into it.
And like I said, when, like we talked about in that Zoom meeting, we don't fall under that chapter, so we should be fine, but I'm more than happy, yeah, the county attorney should look at it regardless.
And you need to, I don't like the 15 years. That is a lot to tie somebody to the max tax. I mean, why not
That's-
5 years?
We can't change that.
We can lower it.
Oh, we can't.
15 's
Oh, I thought it was state required.
That's up to 15.
Point out that clarity. Did you say public funds don't fall under, I think it's chapter 22? As far as the sunset laws?
No,
Okay, I misunderstood what you said there. Thank you.
no. Yeah, it's the up to 15 years. So it's our recommendation to do the 75 cents, and you can do up to 75 cents for up to 15 years. That is our recommendation, and that's not our recommendation just based on we want the most money. That's based on the needs of the county. The 75 cents is, and then the 15 years. If you want to go lower, you can go lower. It's just more often that we have to vote on this, and there's nothing in the law that says we can't. If we get 2-3 years into this, we have our services in place. We have our plans in place. There's nothing that says, hey, we're only using 60 cents of the 75 cents. Our recommendation is to bring that back down.
That's what I want to make sure that was pointed out is we're asking, we went to the maximum because you can't go up. You can only go down.
So,
Correct.
right, I understand that. At the same point in time, so you put it back on the ballot in 5 years and say, we only need 60 cents. We
Have to go
put,
back on the ballot.
yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
No, not to reduce it.
Not
to
Only to increase it.
That's
my understanding anyway. I apologize.
I mean-
to state it, but that's my understanding.
That's my understanding as well.
I would think that if you're voting this in at 75 cents per thousand for X amount of years, that you're stuck to that
That's the maximum.
until you,
Max-
unless you put it
Yeah,
back
you
on the
can't-
ballot to reduce it.
You can't go over that.
Correct.
Right.
But you can go under it. You just are asking for less in terms of the way.
Is that was the question we asked initially when the people who wrote this law, they said you can reduce it and we cannot.
Yeah.
Go.
But out.
Other counties
Maybe we need to clarify that.
are saying the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would get a legal opinion on that because to me, I know we did this in Jessup with the library and we're still at 25 cents. We have been for years.
To
But-
get your
but
general
We
public,
could go lower if you wanted.
to get the general public to think that it's gonna be lower, a lot of them are gonna be, yeah, right. That ain't gonna happen.
Well, we wouldn't be saying that it's gonna be lowered. What we would be saying is this is the maximum that it can be. If the services that are involved don't support 75 cents, then we would have it reduced to what it does support.
And we can't go over 75 because that legislation states that.
Correct. But if we go on the ballot now and ask for 60, then we have to have another ballot measure later on if we wanted to go up to the 75. Whereas we can always go from 75 to 60, at least that's my understanding.
And at the end of every fiscal year, the association has to provide, the advisory council has to provide a detailed down to the dollar report of where that money was spent to you guys and to the public. So if, like I said, we get 2-3 years into this, we have all of our plans in place and that report's reflecting that we're not using money that is coming into us. Have at it. Let's get it to where we're using the money we need, not just the money that we have.
Right.
And that's all gonna be reflected in that report.
Would this be audited? Would this fall underneath our normal auditing that we have done here? Would this be looked at?
Yeah, just like anything else. My other question is, and trust me, I haven't read through this whole thing. I'm gonna be honest with you because I just got it when I was in Des Moines. Am I missing where there's estimated funding? Oh, it's right here, 300,000 for ambulance. That's included in one of these expenditures.
So,
At least that's what it says, because I guess what I'm trying to find out is with this proposal, do we have in here expenses for an ambulance service that we're currently paying for?
No.
because it's.
So then we would have to be, so, how do I want to say this? So we start this taxation and we start getting funds from this tax, then we cannot use that tax for the ambulance service?
Not in here.
So then we would have to put it in our budget, the county would have to put it in their budget to pay for an ambulance service like we currently are.
I think the thought process is, I'm sorry if I'm not speaking out of turn, I think the thought process is that we get the tax and then before the tax actually goes into effect, we've got all that period of time for our meetings to take place in terms of how we're gonna, the business plan at that point in terms of how we're gonna use this money and how it's gonna be funded and whether we need to supplement a private ambulance company or whether it's something we can do in-house between the three entities. I think that's the idea, but we can't ever get there if we don't have a funding source.
This is to help the continuity of the ambulance service, that come 2026, when that contract is up, whatever the board decides to do, we have options available to us. Right now, if we don't have this, your option is pull it from the general budget.
Yeah, there's an opportunity here and it's something that I feel we probably should not miss.
Well, and I guess we disagree on whether or not you can use public funds to pay for a contracted ambulance service, because currently we're doing it. I mean, Independence is doing it. We're using taxpayer funds. ARPA funds are taxpayer.
Right, yes, they are.
And we've got to keep our contract in place with AMR for the contract, but also to help with the transition. If we do this 10 years from now, we still might have AMR supplementing us. But no, I'm just,
I think somebody just puked in his mouth.
but seriously, we need a transition time
Mhm.
because you cannot snap your fingers and have an ambulance
Right.
staffed and ready to go.
So
We've got
ultimately,
a
what
transition.
you're thinking is that the county's going to fund an ambulance service. Is that what I'm
Exactly,
hearing?
exactly.
Larry, did you have something?
Sorry, Chris.
I would like to have our emergency services and the sheriff, if they would be so kind to voice their opinion here, because they're involved with emergency situations in our county year in and year out. So I would like to hear from the sheriff and Rick and what their thoughts are about this, because you deal with this stuff all the time.
Well, my first thought is, with something like this, we're already seeing the decrease in the support, especially for these volunteer services. The numbers aren't there and the requirements are so high and the training is sleep, or especially for an individual that's not getting paid and it's on a volunteer basis. Now they gotta go into these trainings and fork out their own money to get to support these services, their time. The numbers aren't there, so doing something proactively like this, and the taxpayers ultimately are gonna have the ultimate decision of saying yes or no to this. People that you're supplying this service for. You've seen that the last 10 years, the numbers have decreased greatly for these. So if we don't do something now, or at least give the option to the taxpayers, and I don't see it getting any better. And setting and not doing something, I think they put a lot of time into this and have got a good start to public education for this, and I just don't see where the downfall is if it is passed. Like I said, it's ultimately gonna be up to the taxpayers to say yes to this.
And this, I believe, does take a 60% approval vote.
That's what we're understanding.
If you push it off to next year or have a special election, like I said, special election, especially when you're doing a county-wide election. The cost of that's gonna be like, I have no idea, but
25K.
5,000, right?
Or more.
And if you can get this on ballot. It doesn't cost me any more to do that. That's my feeling. I know we started the Rescue 10 program on the sheriff's office to, you know, help out with a lot of these calls that ambulance services and fire departments struggle with manpower and things, especially certain times of the day. I think it's been a great resource to the public. But it's a strain on the sheriff's office too, to supplement, you know, that manpower and times for those services also, which I don't get me wrong, I totally support it. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've really had zero complaints of not, but these are the things that, like the sheriff's offices are had to supplement a little bit on the side also.
Thank you.
Rick, do you have anything, even Griffin back there, do you have anything on the public health perspective?
Stay quiet. I'll ditto Scott along the way. I think we're probably gonna be missing an opportunity if we don't do that now. The thing that I'll say is first and foremost, thanks to the heroes of the county sitting up front up there, and Scott, your team as well. Let me ask you a question. Call volume going down?
No,
Exactly.
No.
It's not going down.
No.
I can pick out 6 people in this room and I won't point any fingers, but myself included. 6 people in this room that have used an ambulance service just in the last 40 days. So when we're looking at this and know our call volumes are going down, depending on what state administrations do to us right now with other offices, what's going on in our mental health situation and community services, who knows? We don't even know in the public health realm. Our call volume is not going down. I think it's time to let it go for the public. It's time. That there's an education piece, unfortunately. Sorry for you guys. We'll help what we can on our end. We've got meetings and stuff too. We're happy to hand out those cowboy cards. We're happy to help. We'll do everything we can, but that's the big thing. The big thing is the education part of it.
You mentioned the call and stuff. I had personal experience with the last 2 weeks. I'm glad they were there.
I can just add something. The magic about EMS is it's not predictable. We can talk about business plans. We can talk about what's going to happen in 2 years, but none of us are going to know. We don't know when emergencies happen. And when you're relying on recruitment for a volunteer service, there's absolutely no way that you can predict people's behavior to want to volunteer and put the hours in that we put in. And if giving a stipend or get some more support helps to make that happen, I really can't put a dollar bill on that, to be honest. When you pick up the phone, you dial 911, you expect somebody to show up. And there's not near enough people to do it.
Yeah.
That is my personal thought on it.
It's hard enough to find volunteers, but when you expect them out of pocket to pay this expensive training, it's unrealistic. Unless there's no carrot that you can dangle out
Right.
there that's gonna make them do it, and unless you give them an incentive. And I think through this program, if we could help with training costs and offsetting that, and whether it's reimbursements, contractual, where they agree to stay for so many years, if we pay it, if they don't, they have to pay it back. It's just unrealistic if we don't do that.
I know until the dedication and stuff from these people is unreal, because I know in the community of Cross Squeaton, an individual wanted to go get training to get recertified and get retrained. But it didn't work out because of her life and her jobs and everything like that she was involved with. But because it wasn't something to budget with, they didn't have the money. The fire chief and another officer on the department volunteered to take their own money to help fund it and pay for that training out of their own pocket. That's what kind of dedication you see out there.
I'm not gonna dispute the dedication. I joined the military 2 days after 9/11. We've got heroes in this room. They do amazing things. If you don't mind, I'll read a excerpt from the question that I asked about this, which was on the lines of transparency. Sue was telling me that you had some current concerns about our meetings. I'm hoping to clarify that for you. The EMS Association is comprised of representatives from every EMS service in the county. Our overarching goal is to promote the best quality patient care and interagency relations. We are not a governmental body and do not fall under the provisions set forth in Iowa's sunshine laws regarding Iowa's Open Meetings Act. I understand that you want to know more about possible EMS essential service levy, and the Board of Supervisors are looking into it.
Yeah, they're not governed by sunshine laws, and nor should they. I mean, this is a service that gets together. They talk about patient care and stuff like that, and that is something that is confidential, so.
So we're not gonna talk about public service funds.
They were tasked with talking about public service funds. I will protect that board to my nth degree.
Absolutely. But let's make sure that these conversations are open when allowed by law, prior to law.
The conversations were, I guess I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
they can't be, they're confident.
They're confidential on which grounds?
So we're not a government body. We're, basically an association of 501(c)(3) out of all the EMS services in the county. What we're doing is making recommendations to the supervisors. So the conversations that are open to the public is
here,
this.
right now.
Is
Okay.
is us saying, hey, this is what we
Right.
think. You know, the discussions between the association members, it's just an association meeting.
Do we have county employees clocked in for those meetings?
Nope.
No, it's paid.
Thank you, Clay.
For as much time as you guys put in, you should be paid for it.
I'd be rich if I was.
To me, it goes back to the basics of voting. And I'm gonna use these words. Let it be the will of the people. You got it on the ballot. It's the will of the people. So if it passes, great. If it doesn't passes, we have to put our nose back to the grindstone and do some more work to figure out why it didn't pass and what we need to do to change to get it to pass. I mean, schools go through this, cities go through this all the time on budget. And you gotta do some revision and some work on things to get it to go through. There's a definite need out there, and it's an essential service, period. So I say, my thoughts are it needs to go on a ballot and let it be the will of the people.
Larry, did you have something?
Yeah. You look at this thing. And no, but I don't think anybody, the need is there, it's gonna get worse because their population's not getting any younger. But just sitting here listening to all this, it reminds me of the dreaded healthcare bill, Obamacare. If Nancy Pelosi pass it, then we'll tell you what's in it. Right now, I've read it and I don't know what's in it. In general terms, if I went to a bank to borrow money for my business, they want a business plan. And a business plan, and I know forecasting is tough, but you forecast based on information you know at hand today. And that's why it doesn't go near far enough. And I don't see plans for beyond 2026. Is there a possibility that we do a for-profit ambulance service out of a hospital with all the communities involved? And we sit here and we pay tax dollars over Jessup for our ambulance service. It's a line item in the budget form. Okay, what happens to those funds then? I mean, that's not detailed in here. They made, I don't know if they made any footsteps toward any of the councils, say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, or the board. And my opinion is that, you got an 80% chance of failure because there's just not enough basic information, more detailed information. And the only thing I do is I urge the board, don't do a Pelosi and say, hey, we're gonna pass it. And, let you know what's in it later, just that, just,
So
then it won't now.
what detailed information would you like to see? What can I answer for you? Like, are you wanting to know like how many jump bags specifically?
Okay, what's future plans?
The future, so.
What happens to my tax dollars?
So this is a 1-year proposal, and each year we would present a report at the end of the fiscal year. And then we would present the next year's proposal as well for our recommendations for the use of the funds. So right now, this year, we have the 50,000 for training, for example. Next year, we might say, you know what, we burnt through that 50,000 and we had to pull from a different line item. We actually want to put more, instead of 50,000, we want to make it 75,000 this year. And we also have this comprehensive study in this proposal to do a comprehensive study of EMS to say, from an objective third-party entity, where's the best use of?
I understand where you all come from, but, okay. Was it discussed, has it ever been laid out? Could we do a for-profit out of the hospital with all the entities involved?
That's down the line.
No, I asked if you guys had explored it.
The hospital has not expressed any interest whatsoever in a ambulance service.
Back to the contrary, they're saying they're not going to.
Yeah.
Right, but they did say they would house them.
What
If
happened?
we put together service, they would house them out there. But they can't physically run it because then it takes them out of the category that they're in.
Yeah, but I mean, there's something, to me, there's gotta be something, what happens? We put this together, you don't get your first tax dollars till 26. And it was sad, plain up. If the money's not there, AMRs are gone. So, the people are chipping in now, you guys get an extra 300,000 independents in the county, I don't think so. Cause you got federal funds to do what we did now.
Correct.
And if they bail out the last minute at the end of the contract, you don't have enough time. And that's why I say there's nothing in this, great conceptual plan. But it's not broke down. I look at it like I'm the bank and you say bring it forth, something you want $1 million. Can't answer hardly. What happened to my tax dollars over Jessup? For the service that I already have.
So in Jessup, for example, I'm the assistant chief for the Jessup
Yeah.
ambulance service. So in Jessup, with this funding, we could provide on-call pay during Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, to make sure there's a paramedic there.
I got that part, Dan. I'm saying, and what happens to my tax dollars currently
Already
paying
paying.
for the same service?
Nothing.
It's not the
You're-
same.
you're-
It's a better.
Oh, so now I get to tax twice.
So
What do you
right
mean, no?
now,
If
Right
I'm
now.
paying for it now. And then you add another 75 cents.
if we could provide, if the tax money that Jessup pays right now to the Jessup ambulance service could do everything that Jessup needed, we wouldn't need this. The tax base coming from Jessup gets us here. And it's not where we need to be. It's not sustainable. With support from this funding, we would be sustainable up here. Right now, we're providing that service on the backs of volunteers. This,
I drove for 15 plus years, yeah, but I know.
and we're running more calls than ever with volunteers, and we need funding for staffing, we need funding for equipment, we need funding for training that the city of Jessup can't provide just due to
There's
their.
no doubt in my mind that the base is good. I'm the bank, you're asking for money from me.
Yep.
And you can't, what happens to the tax dollars I pay?
Larry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you have an actual tax levy for the ambulance, or are you
No,
taking
it's
this out of the
not
general?
levy,
It's out of the general
It's a
fund.
line item.
It's a line item in the general fund.
Yeah. But
So
my,
those dollars could actually go somewhere else. They
That's-
don't have to go to the ambulance.
So that's not what this is for. This is a support system. This is to say you're,
Supplemental.
yeah,
Right.
you're at 80% of where you should be. This is to make up that other 20%. that your current server or your current, revenue can't provide.
Yeah, you guys can, okay, you guys can continue on. But it's so much tougher to pass something a second or third time than it is the first time.
That's why we gotta get it right the first time.
Yeah, and this, like you say, I go back to, you guys remember those famous words, Nancy Pelosi, pass it, and then we'll tell you what's in it. This is the same thing. It's not detailed.
I don't know how you can get much more detail than what he's got right now.
Correct.
And they're having these public meetings out there. You can get detailed and answer detailed questions when you're out there.
Yep, so when we go to each community, using Jessup as an example, we go to Jessup, our education is gonna be Jessup's need. How is this funding gonna help Jessup? What are they doing right now and how can we improve on it? Same thing with, the needs of Quoski is different than the needs of Jessup. So we can go to Quoski and say, this is how this funding can help your specific needs.
Chris, do you have anything, any other questions? Nope. Concerns? Nope. You happy to be a fiscal agent on this?
Item number 3, you guys have given to me so far this morning.
It's early in the week.
Yeah, it's only Monday.
Yep.
Are we at the point of taking a vote on this, or this just would be for discussion and sharing information? Are we to the point where we can do a motion on getting it on the ballot?
Are you gonna get an opinion from the county attorney before you approve it?
So nothing's came back. Anybody reached out to him yet?
Yes, I sent them.
Yeah, Don,
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah.
Because I had legal questions. Josh did respond back. He's looking into it. But as far as getting a firm response, it's legal, it's okay. Not yet.
You can always pass it conditioned upon the approval by the county attorney as well.
That would be my motion that we move forward with the advisory board's recommendations and pending approval of the county attorney.
I'll second.
Roll call,
Kurt's eye.
Or yes.
abstain.
You have to state a reason for your abstention.
Nope, I can abstain whenever I want to.
No, I think abstentions don't they require a,
Nope.
okay. Use my Robert's rules.
The motion passed.
Or couldn't hear you.
Do what?
You said it passed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I just didn't hear you.
So it will be on the ballot,
Pending approval of the county attorney.
pending
Yes.
approval of the county attorney, yes.
If you hear back from them, please let us know. If there's anything different than yes.
Yeah, yep, I will actually, as soon as I
just
get
be on
that,
hold until we hear from you guys.
as soon as I get that back, I'll.
Now you can start doing your scheduling.
Yeah.
Getting out
But-
to the public.
Yeah.
They're gonna talk tonight at the city council meeting.
We'll get moving and hear back from you guys and get out to the public. And if you, so again, if we get out there and you guys start getting questions as well, we're more than happy to reach out to us. We can help answer questions or anything. We're talking about an open book.
Right.
In the meantime, while they're doing their thing, Brad, I would like for us to form a small committee with the hospital and see if we can start putting something together. The city, the county, and and maybe get Jessup and Fairbanks City involved also, and the hospital.
Sure.
And let's work on something behind the scenes that doesn't,
Yeah, our board currently is myself, John, and the person from the hospital. So it's a 3-person board according to the way that we were set up.
When Chris Evans been involved in it.
Yes, he has.
And we've actually invited Jessup and Fairbank to those meetings also.
Well, Jessica has attended those meetings as well. I don't know that I've that Fairbanks been
Who
involved
did you
in.
reach out to Fairbanks, you know?
I'm not, I
I
can't.
don't remember.
Was
Sorry,
it just a city clerk or was it somebody fire units?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry, I just don't know.
Okay, because I hadn't heard from anybody that's reached out to our department anyway, but certainly happy to be part of that group and have some discussion.
Right.
And I would
And
say
maybe-
Dawn would be more than welcome to attend
I would love
those
to.
meetings.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have ideas.
Lots
of
of
ideas.
ideas.
And if anybody in the audience don't know what the ambulance districts are, there's some maps up here. Right, on to the next.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate your service and thank you for,
The local road safety plan and more activity, more people into it, the better. So if we haven't seen any invitations since September. Yes, we have the emergency management.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, the more info we can get, how can we make the county road safer?
hey, Dan,
Yeah, that's.
thank you for stepping forward and being, on the Justice Ambulance. All for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, changes to the county compensation board. So, looks like we have to vote if we're going to use the county compensation board.
It's not a vote for me. I
We
say,
had a thing down in, when I was in Des Moines this week, our Lucas from ISAC spoke regarding this. And Reader's Digest version, the Board of Supervisors, if they choose to continue with the compensation board, then there's that sample resolution they sent out, then it just carries on. The biggest thing behind this law was for these members of this compensation board to show their research on how they come about you guys getting a 5% raise or me getting a 5%. You know, so like they would, it's very similar to the blue. So like they would take mine and compare it, which it would be extremely difficult, compare it to someone in a CPA, an audit firm. Well, there's no big audit firms in Buchanan County, so that would be kind of difficult. Or if you guys choose to dissolve the compensation board, that responsibility is yours.
I don't feel like I am should ever be in the position to determine another elected official's pay.
I would agree with that, and I would prefer to keep the compensation board. Let them work independently of us and make their recommendations.
Right.
Clayton, what's your thoughts?
I agree with that, and I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second.
Keep it as is.
I'll second that.
I have a first, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We don't need to make it a political issue.
No. All right, Raleigh
And
Shop.
then going along with that, then, you know, we got some changes, like, and I've explained to you too, that, you know, the Board of Supervisors are allowed 2 representatives. And that was selected from the previous board. And at any time you want to reappoint somebody else different, it's, the new board can get that done and make that approved.
Well, and as of right now with this resolution, the current members, the top board members, their names are in this resolution. So if you choose to change who's representing you, then we need to do a resolution again.
Brian wants it.
Good morning. Well, we've had some problems at the Raleigh shop, so we tried to address it and found out that we've got the metal is rusting through. And so the only logical way of really fixing that is to replace the tin roof. And then if we're doing that, then let's update it to much the way we did, where we would do the spray foam insulation on it, which will be far more efficient than what we've got right now.
Is there a problem with so you're gonna do the spray foam after you get it?
After you replace the roof, then you spray foam it.
Okay.
And, Tom went through and got some costs. And, the lower of the two is Dutch Brothers, less than Helmuth Construction at 14,530 to replace the metal roof. And then, Dutch Brothers was also lower on the gutters too. Insulation and fire coating, we had Iowa foam, iFoam and Midwest foam, and iFoam was significantly less expensive there. And costs also in there would be a dumpster, and he's got a couple prices on the dumpster. It does not include any lumber for any rotted out stringers or rafters or anything if they really get into it and find we got some real problems up there too. But that would be the time to fix that.
So the roofing replacement does not include any. It's just the tin only.
Just the tin only, yes. Yeah, because you don't know what you got rotten until you pull the tin off.
Is this, these two installation companies, I mean, that one used to be, Kaiser, and so I think shares took it over or something like. Is that one of these companies here?
I would assume so,
That's
but
not
Clayton,
theirs.
I don't know for sure. I would have to talk to Tom.
He's got different.
I don't,
We didn't change the name of the company.
no, he didn't change it.
Still Arctic.
Arctic Steel?
Yeah, Arctic Seal.
Why don't we see if a local company wants to bid that?
Sure, sure.
Arctic Seal, I
Yeah.
can reach out to Arctic Seal.
Yep.
And see if we can, and what's amazing here in these bids, the installation cost is quite a bit more than the actual tin
The
cost.
tin costs, yeah,
What? What is?
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then even like the dumpster, that's a significant cost there too. Yeah, that not, maybe not significant, but. Yeah, we'll do that. And then do we have permission to proceed if with the
So
low
dumpster
quotes?
cost is- That's for disposing, taking, hauling the old tin off.
No, it's more the insulation that's up there.
But what's gonna happen to the waste tin that you're taking? off?
They would probably haul that off for salvage.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be included in their
Their bid?
bid. If they make any money out of it,
I didn't. do that.
right now, one of the operators told me they got $80 a ton for steel, so. There's not a lot of money in there. Do I have permission then to proceed after with the low quotes? We'll check with Arctic Seal.
And if Arctic Seal comes in lower, use them.
Yep.
And that's all apples to apples, the thickness and the density of the foam and everything.
Yeah, I'm hoping Tom kept it that way, yes. And I'm relying on him too.
Fireproofing, so.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we allow him to proceed pending.
With the low quotes.
And you got this in your budget.
Yes, I've got about 200,000 in for buildings for this upcoming year. And I'm also letting you know, I've got major electrical issues going on there too. And we're getting electrician's quotes for that. Issues, they use the conduit for ground. And so now when the electrician looks at that, he says, you can't do that. 1950s, they did.
Still have cloth wrapped wire and.
No, and the one of the things they're working on right now, getting quotes on, is I got a lot of wires that are just run that are not in conduit for the lights upstairs in particular, and that doesn't meet code today. So that one thing leads to the next, doesn't it? When I get the numbers, I'll bring those in. Otherwise, you've answered everything there. Does there?
Did we make a motion on that?
Yeah, John, I think.
I made a motion to proceed
All right,
pending the local bid for the home installation.
all in favor?
Hi.
All right.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Justice Courthouse updates.
Ben had sent us an email about some recommendations he wanted to see since we had upgraded the restrooms. And I think I forwarded that on to everybody.
And an email. Updates I would like considered.
Yeah,
Let's see.
there it is.
I've noticed under the treasurer's office, the waiting line can get long. I wonder if the cost of adding an AC unit.
In the hallway?
Yeah, no,
No, then they're gonna want one upstairs, and we're not gonna. That's, people there just temporary, and I can't see air conditioning in hallways.
right.
It's just in the. Be a large, first of all, to get units installed, there's gonna be a large cost, and then the operation of the unit, the maintenance of the units. No, it's unwise expenditure of money.
Next up is all the bathrooms, including the staff and the sheriff's private restrooms, become hands-free.
In my opinion, if you start doing that, you're looking at a lot of plumbing upgrades. And at the age of this plumbing, I don't think you want to be tearing into those.
Yeah, and there's maintenance costs and hands-free stuff, and we be constant maintenance and. Not working properly and,
And it's currently not in the budget.
yeah. So, no, I think that's. A request I would deny myself.
Let's see.
You got soap dispensers,
Well, we have flush valves on the urinals in the second floor.
That would be the same, no.
Hands-free soap dispensers. I guess are changing to them one at a time. In private bathrooms at this point in time. I think that was it.
Trying to think on these soap dispensers. Wonder what the price of the soap is from these suppliers. If it's a lot more than the soap that we're currently buying. I mean, free dispensers is sometimes a hook to get you
to buy the soap.
stuck. It's kind of like those spray air fresheners that they lure you into.
I guess if they've been liable on to get a cost, to bring a cost back to us, we could look at it.
All right,
If we did go with hands-free faucets and stuff like that, I'm not in favor of our staff doing the change.
Well, and like I
Things
say,
could go wrong.
as old as the plumbing and electrical is in here, I hate. Once you get into it, it's just like when we put our new light fixtures in with Mr. Curry. We ended up with, a lot of additional wiring costs because the wiring's so bad. And the initial project looked pretty reasonable, and all of a sudden the price starts escalating because we find this and we find that. And just like you're
Just like me.
Yeah.
They come out to look at one thing, they say, we won't touch this.
My opinion, that's not a good expenditure of taxpayer dollars.
no,
But if somebody wanted to reach out to Ben and Lyle, say, get us a cost figure on the soap thing, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Beans, we've got this on the agenda, and it's not specific, it's just like suggested courthouse updates. And the moisture problem, water problem we've had down in the basement. We're all aware of it, we're all sitting there, we met with contractors on this.
Mhm.
To start off with, it's always been a concern of mine ever since I've been here. if that area floods down there where the electrical distribution panels are, we're gonna put the courthouse and the jail, everybody down if that floods out. Even though because the generator feeds through them also.
Right.
And so to put an alarm system in down there from Hawkeye Alarm, who is our alarm system company, is, to do that is $568. We've had two companies come in, I should say I contacted, Foundation Recovery Services to figure out what we can do with, taking that water to the sump pit and add an additional sump pump. And also from, Mid-America Basement.
Clayton, when we toured with them down there, they were talking about directing that water in a more efficient manner also, because it's nightmare right now.
So Foundation Recovery. And I think what we need to do is if the board decides to proceed, looking at this closer, is to have these companies come in and explain their proposals. Because Foundation Recovery Systems to take care of their problem, to get that water directed to a sump, an additional sump pump put in and stuff like that with a battery backup system to the sump. Is the contract price is $9,808.17. And I don't, have you two got this? Okay, I can forward this contract on to you, so you can review it. So that's $9,808.17. Mid-American Basement, they're not exactly apples to apples. There's some variations in what they are proposing to do to take care of the problem. Their quote is $33,954.99.
That's significantly different.
Yeah, they were gonna go a little bit above and beyond what Foundation Recovery, but a lot more money. I mean, so I guess what I'm asking, would you two be willing to me to contact these individuals and have them come in there and explain their proposals to us? Because this is an issue. We got wall deterioration. We got deterioration problems going on. We need to protect our courthouse and our infrastructure.
Yeah.
I think it's important it's been on my mind for years that.
I think, it would make a lot of sense. So we're both on the same page as far as what we want to get done down there.
Right, yeah, I would like to hear what one is proposing against the other one, and I mean, if the more expensive, if the one proposal is better by
I
that much
remember
more, then.
both of them. And at Foundation Recovery, I liked his plan, and he's significantly lower, but
Is that gonna fully meet our needs, what we're trying
That's-
to accomplish here?
that's the question now.
So, I mean, and in the meantime, Dawn, in case you don't have that, John, I'll just recopy this and get everything, and I'll also get it to Chris, so she got a file on it and stuff. And then we can get them on the agenda and bring them in there and explain their proposals to us, and then determine from there what we want to do.
That sounds good.
Is that one of the items we have budgeted, you guys budgeted for?
That's
Infrastructure needs, yeah.
Capital improvements, yeah.
Okay.
All right, public comments.
Go ahead,
My name's Ryan Walkman,
Ryan, we need your address too.
1714 Otterville Boulevard. I'm here to ask about that Balanced Music Festival I just heard about. It abuts the backside of my farm. That's where my cattle are at, all that, people coming in now. I want to know, what is my liability when somebody does trespass on my property? What's gonna happen with that? And also, I'm worried about the traffic. That's a line curve. I've been to music festivals. Traffic is everywhere. Takes hours to get through multiple gates, let alone when you have one. entry point.
Those are valid concerns.
You have got cattle, my understanding.
Yes.
What do you perceive the potential problem with your cattle from loud noises and stuff? I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they're proposing a fireworks display out there too, which I haven't seen no permit
They're gonna
request
be
come
less than
through on
50
that.
yards away from my pasture, where my cattle will be in that time. I'm worried that they're gonna run. Will they go through a fence? Will somebody get in with them? Get hurt? That is my concern. Because it's a timber. We have a quality fence that holds our cattle, but it's not gonna stop people from coming through it.
Do you have a good bull in the pasture?
Problem isn't.
Good.
And that's another major concern I have. Somebody gets in there and gets hurt, who is liable? Because I did not entice those people there. I did not bring them there.
Right.
Why would I be liable?
Right, I wonder, do you have a no trespassing sign up there?
I do all the way around the property.
Okay,
Ryan, did you get the invitation to the plan or the Board of Adjustment?
I have not seen.
They're gonna be meeting July 10th and I can pull it back up.
July 10th at 7 o'clock at the Emergency Operations Center.
The old Rydell building.
Oh, the west side, okay.
My understanding, the Board of Adjustment zoning should be sending out that invite, because I think it's about all property owners to be like around it.
Yes.
How you're supposed to be, but do watch for that, so July 10th.
Okay.
I'll run you a copy of the agenda. I'll be getting one in the mail.
Right, yeah.
All the adjacent property owners.
Yeah, with the blind curve and all the traffic, again, being the music festivals, it took me 4 hours to get to a festival that had 5 gates with multiple crews running. I was stopped on Interstate 35 for 4 miles to get.
Yeah,
So I don't know what's gonna happen to our road,
when he explained,
and it's a completely blind curve, and people know it's a 55, but they drive 65, 70 through that curve.
Right.
And if there's people stopped there, they're gonna get them.
he
There's
said
no way to
that
get the traffic off the road.
they were going to stop them at the gates and do vehicle
It's
searches.
gonna take even longer.
It's gonna take even longer. They're gonna be backed up for, they'll be out on 150 and everywhere else.
They let us in, we have all our tickets, our passes and everything, and they're already barcoded, ready to scan. And all they do is scan us and direct us to the spot we're in. They don't search us, they don't check anything. So if they're gonna do that, it's gonna take even longer to get them through.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to him having something, I want to know what happens if something happens on my property due to him.
Yeah, I think he's required to have certificates.
Hopefully.
But that's, I just don't want to get my liability.
You want to?
No, thank you though for hearing.
Very valid concerns you presented, and highly recommend, like John said, to make sure your whole neighborhood attends this, meeting.
And my other question is, this has no way to impede any of my operations, so if I can continue to operate my farm as I would normally operate during that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah. Good time to spread manure.
I'm still on the morning fireworks.
As high as the river is right now,
It's underwater.
I don't know how they're going to, it's gonna be a swamp.
It does have it, and it's still wet and tacky. What's gonna happen to the road when all those people get dragged out of there and take all that mud with them?
The other concern is we are the high spot in that area. And so that's an enticement. We're also concerned about that they will run to our properties.
Sure.
And,
So we're gonna be the dry location.
and we have no, interaction with them at all, and there's no, permission to use our property. So any plans presented have no permission to use our property or access to it.
I think, your comments would be more than welcomed at the Board of Adjustment meeting.
Do you have any answers for the road, Brian?
We haven't, well, I don't even know where the entrance is for sure, but you're talking on curb.
It's on the curb.
It's right at the sand pit.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
Starts.
Yeah, I'm picturing on the west side of Sand Pit.
East side.
before.
That's a different owner on the west side.
Yeah, and I have no way of controlling any of this or impacting any of this with the current regulations. Washington County has some rules and regulations where they require events like this to get permits from secondary roads, but we have no basis for it here.
Can you get us the stuff from Washington County?
Certainly.
We might want it at some point.
They were evaluating whether they need to just drop that requirement. And I forwarded that email on to Dawn a while back. But yeah,
And I don't think there's so much of a question of damage to hard surface roads. But if you're off on secondary roads, there could be a real problem.
well, the issue brought up about dragging all the mud out onto the road is a valid one too, because we
Sure.
get the same issue. Complaints with manure get pulled out onto the
Sure.
road.
Makes it a little slippery.
A little slippery and the typical of the manure is that I drive my car into the garage and then the house smells.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you live in rural areas.
Thank you.
Right.
Any other concerns?
Has there been any communication or decision from the county attorney's office regarding the release of the petition with the signatures and telephone numbers on?
I haven't heard anything.
My recollection, they more or less just wanted a copy of the petition, what the petition read.
The email I received stated that she wanted copies of the petitions. Does she want just a little wording? Does she want all the 500 and some pages that are signed with people's names, addresses, and phone numbers on them? And that's why I turned it up to the county attorney, because I don't feel I am qualified to make that decision on what she gets.
There's costs associated with that.
If I have to make copies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Concerned about the phone numbers being released, I would think that would fall under, I believe it's, I may be wrong on this, but code 202, chapter 2 of parent, 202-225, something like that, so that they cannot be released if, it would inhibit people, if people would not have signed it, had they known it would have been turned over to somebody like NextEra. And, because of the telephone numbers on there, unless they're redacted, I would think that would fall under that.
And there was probably nothing on the petition that said, this could become public information.
No.
I don't recall there being phone numbers on there. It was only address.
No, there's phone numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was county attorney thing. We need to find out from him what, before it's released.
All right. I don't have anything else. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
The first and second meetings adjourned at, I don't know, 10:37, 38.